Since this might be the last online shift, I thought I'd show you my garden. I spent a lot of time in the garden during the last year. We've had to behave in ways which we never expected, with so many new laws introduced restricting our freedom. Has that changed who we are? It's sometimes been challenging, particularly if the limits stopped you from being with people you love. However, we have hunkered down and got used to it being restricted. Now we have our freedom back. Are we ready for it? This morning we're going to think about the freedom to be yourself. I'm going to be talking about what might stop us being ourselves. What changes can we make now? How can we respond to and help others to be themselves? Whilst we have been restricted, there's been time to reflect. And perhaps some of us have had to, with jobs becoming insecure, students and teachers having to work in very different ways, working from home in new roles. We all have a desire to be authentic, the best version of ourselves that we can be. Just as we have many different types of plants in our gardens, we need many different types of people. Some plants have brilliant colours, bringing us joy to look at. Others might be thought of as weeds, but actually do attract wildlife, often better than more cultivated plants. Other plants provide food, such as my tomatoes here. And then outside, the trees are providing shade and shelter for birds. Many of us find our authentic selves through our work and our relationships, and these things have been challenged over the last year. Freedom to be ourselves is a driver of happiness and motivation. It also protects against mental exhaustion, freeing up energy for other things. I saw a poster at Harlow Car Gardens recently, and it said, "Yesterday I was, tomorrow I will be, today I'll take my time and enjoy being me." Helpful words. I'll take my time and enjoy being me. Hello, I'm going to tell you a guilty secret. I like watching Gogglebox. Now, if you haven't seen it, it's just normal people being themselves at home with a cuppa, talking about what they're watching on the TV. Maybe the reason I like it is because the people are just being themselves. They're funny, thoughtful, silly, shocked, and a whole range of other emotions depending on what they are watching. I like the authenticity. There are no airs and graces, no masks or scripts, just people being people. It's a kind of vicarious people watching activity. So, what is stopping us from just being ourselves? Some people I've talked to are still very concerned about going out. The past year's been hard on most of us. Who hasn't felt anxious? Who hasn't wanted to retreat from the world at times? Staying at home when possible, as COVID-19 rates climbed, felt safer and of course was required by lockdown rules. Yet, could growing accustomed to feeling less safe in public spaces seed or feed anxiety disorders such as agoraphobia? People with agoraphobia often fear leaving their homes, and we know that some people will find it hard now to start mixing with others. Of course, it's not just worrying about going out again, wearing a mask or not, or has everyone had the vaccination? Get it if you haven't. Other things can stop us being our true selves. Indeed, do we really know who that is? How do others see us, and how do we see ourselves? I'm sure all of us of a certain age, if asked, would say we still feel about 20. I don't feel like a professor or like I know lots of stuff or am seen as a world expert in my field. How did that happen? Imposter, imposter. I'm cringing. In September, I'm going to start working 3 days a week. What will happen when I do eventually retire? Do I lose my identity? Others are concerned about relationships, worrying about the past or the future, the family or their health. I might be odd here, but I often wonder what sort of day the people I'm passing in the street have had. Have they just had bad news? I wouldn't know, of course, because on the surface, everything seems normal. Now, in thinking about this talk, the TV series, yes, another one, Friends, came to mind. And what made that so engaging were the relationships between the friends in their homes and the coffee shop. Now, we've had a year without those sort of interactions, stopping the building of new friendships in its tracks. As relative newcomers to this church, we've not been able to build those memories with people here. You don't really know me, and I don't know you. I'd like to get to know you, though. We're going to have to go step by step as we unlock our lives from the pandemic. So, how do we release ourselves to be authentic? Let's think about what is important. Getting things into perspective isn't always easy if you're feeling stressed or anxious. Now, it turns out that being kind to others can be one of the easiest and most inexpensive ways to keep anxiety at bay. Doing nice things for others boosts serotonin levels, and that's the neurotransmitter responsible for feelings of satisfaction and well-being. And actually, we have some words of advice from Paul in his letter to people living in Philippi, which we find in the Bible. He tells us not to be anxious, but to pray, asking God and trusting him to bring peace. When we have peace, we can be ourselves. Paul says, fix your thoughts on what is true and honourable, right, pure and lovely. Think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. Keep putting into practice all you learned and received from me, everything you heard from me and saw me doing. Then the God of peace will be with you. So the next time you're feeling a little anxious, why not look for opportunities to help others? This could just simply be smiling at someone, calling a friend, volunteering, or giving your time to an organisation. Even a small gesture can make a big difference. Helping others lets you get outside of yourself and take a break from your own challenges. Helping others can also make you better equipped to be yourself. Reinhold Niebuhr said, "Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference." Getting control of our thoughts can make a big difference to how we feel. Okay, so how can we respond to others and help them be themselves? Well, we can start by being kind to ourselves, then being kind to others. In the first talks of this session, we were encouraged to call out discrimination or prejudice when we see it. As Wendy told us in the first talk, as a white woman from South Africa, she carries a responsibility to ensure equality for all. Remember that broken vase she was holding? Then Karen told us about the challenges of moving country. Let's make sure we welcome everyone. Check that what you are seeing in Friends is not the unbroken side of the vase with lots of cracks on the other. Take a look at those talks too if you missed them earlier on. Listening can help us understand each other. If I listen to my friend, what does my friend really mean? Listening is a skill that can be cultivated. It's also an act of kindness and love. I really like Radio 4's The Listening Project. There are so many little intimate details from people talking to each other, and we can listen in and find out more about them. Think of the future and be grateful for what we have now. I want to finish with a poem. You may well have heard it before, But for any younger listeners, watch out. The poem is titled Warning. This might be how your parents turn out by being themselves, free to be themselves. Warning. When I'm an old woman, I shall wear purple, with a red hat which doesn't go and doesn't suit me, and I shall spend my pension on brandy and summer gloves and satin sandals, and say we've no money for butter. I shall sit down on the pavement when I'm tired, and gobble up samples in shops, and press alarm bells, and run my stick along the railings, and make up for the sobriety of my youth. I shall go out in my slippers in the rain, and pick the flowers in other people's gardens, and learn to spit. You can wear terrible shirts and grow more fat, and eat 3 pounds of sausages at a go, or only bread and pickle for a week, and hoard pens and pencils and beer mats and things in boxes. But now we must have clothes that keep us dry and pay our rent, and not swear in the street, and set a good example for the children. We must have friends to dinner and read the papers. But maybe I ought to practice a little now, so people who know me are not too shocked and surprised when suddenly I am old and start to wear purple.